Okay, so we're going to be looking at adding and subtracting vectors. First off, we're going to be drawing our two vectors. Notice that there's now directions with them. So we take our ruler, we measure 2 centimeters east. Then we're looking at vector B. We're looking at seeing this, it is south of east. North, east, south, west. So south of east means we start by going east first. And then how many degrees? 30 degrees. We go south of east, 30 degrees. And then we measure with our ruler 3 centimeters. Now we are going to be worrying about adding vectors. So we are going to draw the vectors tail to tip. So we have our first one, vector A, and we have our second one, vector B. Notice it's 2 centimeters east, then 3 centimeters, 30 degrees south of east. And that is our vector B. Once we have them added, we get a resultant. Blue and red can make purple to get our resultant. So what does that mean? How can we figure out our x and y? Well, this is where we have to use our trig. We have to use sine and cosine, at least when there's angles involved. The first one is simple. East is in the x direction. How much in the x direction? 2 centimeters. How much up and down? 0. Now we're going to look at the b component. Our b component is for the x and the y. This is where we have to draw our triangle. And once we have our triangle drawn for our b vector, we can add our angles into it, and I'm going to label which one's x and which one's y. Remember, x is on the horizontal and y is on the vertical. So, to figure out our x, we are going to use cosine. Cosine of our angle times our hypotenuse, 3 centimeters, gets us our adjacent. In this case, our x component. For the y, we're then going to be using sine. Sine is our opposite divided by hypotenuse, or to find that opposite, sine 30 multiplied by our hypotenuse, 3 centimeters, gives us our y component. When we plug these in our calculator, please make sure you're in degree mode when you plug this in. You get 1.5 for the y, but notice it is downward, so it's going to be negative. So negative 1.5 centimeters. And then when we plug it into our calculator for the x, we get 2.6 centimeters, making sure to put our units on there. Now we're moving down to our components, and we're figuring out our resultant vector. The way we do this is we add up everything in the x. So 2 centimeters plus 2.6 centimeters. That gets our resultant in the x direction. Therefore, 4.6 centimeters is our x. Now we need to figure out our resultant y component. So we add up everything in the y. We have 0 centimeters plus a negative 1.5 centimeters. What does that result with? Negative 1.5 centimeters. Now we know our x and y for our resultant vectors. We need to move on to drawing the triangle for our r and x. So x being positive 4.6, we're going to start by drawing our rx to the right 4.6 centimeters. Then negative 1.5 means downward 1.5 centimeters. And that results in an arrow down and to the right, just like we saw up above. I'm just labeling these x's and y's so we can see there. Now, I would always recommend putting your values for your triangle on your triangle. Notice how the 1.5 is now positive. And a reminder, the angle will always go in the corner of the triangle that we started at. To figure out our resultant magnitude, magnitude, remember, means size, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So 4.6 squared plus 1.5 squared equals c, as long as we square root all of it. We plug that into our calculator. Please make sure that you use parentheses when you need to use parentheses. If you have negative values in for 1.5, it will still work, but if you square negative, it's going to be positive anyway. And we find 4.84 centimeters for our value for C. Now we got to look for our angle. The way we can do that is using tangent. And if you do the tangent inverse of the opposite over the adjacent, you can find your angle. So our angle, tangent inverse 1.5 divided by 4.6, gives us roughly 18 degrees. So how do we write our answer? Well, we take those and put them together. 4.84 centimeters at 18 degrees. 18 degrees which way? Well, we started by going east, and then we went south. So 4.84 centimeters at 18 degrees south of east.